I have this like very interesting mix of tech/investing background, but none of it came from universities. It's all learned on my own. And I think one of the things that I always talk about is not getting too hung up on, oh, this is a degree that I took, or this is a path. Like it's your life. Do whatever works best for you.
Welcome to the TechFace podcast. We at TechFace are all about connecting female tech communities with companies to support their members finding a meaningful career in tech. In this podcast, we interview women who have a career in tech to inspire your own journey. Let's listen to our next guest on this episode. Today we are talking to Asra. Asra and we have actually met online or connected online, and she has quite an impressive story. She was born and raised in Pakistan, studied there as well, and is now working in the Silicon Valley. But I would like you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Awesome. Hi. Thank you for having me. This is a great opportunity and I love connecting with you. I actually know very few people that I have met in person. Most of my friends in my network is people I connected online with. But to briefly introduce myself, my name is Asra. I grew up in Pakistan and I've been working with tech startups for the last 15 years, mostly as an early employee who focuses on customer acquisition and growth. And then 5 years ago, I moved to the Valley and I started working with venture capitalist Tim Draper, managed a fund for him and also a pre-accelerator called Draper University. And now I am back to working with a startup, but this time I'm building my own company.
That's great. So how long have you actually been working in tech? Did you study computer science at the university as well, or what is your academic background?
So I studied economics, and like any, young individual who grows up in a developing country, I wanted to be in politics, or I wanted to change our, political landscape and create more opportunities for people. And so I started economics, very quickly realized that that's not the way to go. And I was introduced to technology very, very early on. When I was 13 was when I got my first computer. And that just opened up a whole new world. My first business that I ran myself was off of MIRC, which is a chat service. And I just met a whole bunch of amazing individuals globally. And from there, I then studied film, TV, theater, because that was creativity and like that was my original love. And interestingly, I got hired by a tech company that had just moved the founder had just moved to Pakistan from Stanford, and he was starting a company, and I got hired because I spoke good English. So my job was to reply to customer emails. And very quickly, I was hired full time, and then I was a product manager because I kept I was like, oh, that's not what your customers want. This is how this is what they're saying. So that ended up being very exciting. So I have a very non-traditional entry into tech. And then I learned how to build products, how to code on my own at the job. I had the privilege of and the fortune of working with amazing people who had the patience and foresight to let me learn and explore and be good at things. So one of the things I really believe in is that in order for women or anybody to have complete freedom and flexibility to live life on your own terms, you really need to have financial freedom. And that comes from compounding your time and capital that you have. And nobody really talks about how do you invest or how do you start investing or how do you make money? And that was something I also learned on my own. So I have this like very interesting mix of tech/investing background, but none of it came from universities. It's all learned on my own. And I think one of the things that I always talk about is not getting too hung up on, oh, this is a degree that I took, or this is a path. Like it's your life. Do whatever works best for you.
That's absolutely true. And I think it's fascinating. We interview a lot of women in this podcast, and I would say most of them have not the typical career in tech, meaning having a bachelor and master's degree in computer science and started as a software engineer and then are now leading a software team or something like that. So I hear this a lot, that the different ways, the different career paths you take. And when you look back now, what do you think you've taken from your studies that you can still use today? When you say the topics as is, you're not working in this area anymore, but what do you think to have you taken out of your studies the most?
Oh, I was in school such a long time ago. But I think one key skill I learned in school from one of my math teachers was how to learn new things. And basically, what I learned was how to learn. And I think that in itself is a very, very important skill that a lot of times is overlooked. And that's kind of what I think is the key in terms of how to learn new things and how to analyze, make decisions, and very quickly come up with hypotheses, test them, and move on. So I think that's the most important thing I learned.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned before you started your first job in a tech company. How did you get into this job? Did you met the CEO or the owner of this company, but how did you meet him, and how did you decide that this could be a good opportunity for you?
So I was already a huge fan of technology companies, and I already was very active on MySpace and other. So this is like back in the day before Facebook. So I was already very active on online communities, and I knew a bunch of people. And one of the people that I knew introduced me to the CEO. And that's kind of how I heard about the opportunity. And then I wasn't even done with my college. I was still working on my thesis, and I started working part-time. And then within 3 months, I was working full-time on that. So I think a lot of it just had to do with, I guess, just being at the right place at the right time, but also realizing the opportunity and then giving it my 100%. And then that company raised money from Tim Draper. So that's kind of how I knew him. And then like 10 years later, I would just send him a cold email and we connected again and I moved here. So a lot of these things have been in the works for a long time. It's just the puzzle pieces fit at different places.
Have you ever applied for a job on a traditional way, like when you saw a job post and applied for it?
No, I've never done that. I always, if there is a job that I think by the time a job gets posted, I used to work for a job website. That was one of the products that I built. By the time a job gets posted, they already either have references or they know people that they are talking to in most cases. So, and even if I do see a job that is interesting, I always have reached out to, because I've always worked with startups. And I think one of the things that startup founders don't have a lot of is time. And they're always looking for people who are willing to get their hands dirty and do a lot of things and take things off their plate. So I have always just directly reached out to founders, written really solid emails to them, and also given them like, okay, this is what I'm going to do in my first like 60 days, 90 days. This is my plan. And this is why you should talk to me. But I've also never worked in like big tech companies. So take what I say with a grain of salt. Like I think startups, they are the most exciting space to be, but they're also extremely risky. Mm-hmm. And then my job in venture was the same way. I just reached out to Tim Draper.
Yeah. And what is it that you love about your job today? So you're building your own startup. Are you still working in the venture capital area?
I am. So what I love about being an investor is that you really get to learn from some of the best people, right? So for example, I love investing in automation and AI or like machine learning. And some of the companies are at the frontier of it. So when you really meet the founders, it's like such a unique experience, because yes, you are evaluating them, but at the same time, you're also expanding your worldview and your horizons. I think investing is interesting because you get paid to learn from some of the best people in the world and also invest in them and be a part of their journey. But the interesting thing about building a company is that, and while investing is interesting, managing other people's money is not very interesting to me. And there are so many ways that you can invest in companies now as an angel or other, you can be a part of crowdfunding or projects that you like, you can become a part of them in so many different ways that necessarily going down a traditional venture capital route is not very necessary. So building a company is exciting because that way you're building on something that you truly believe in, and you're building a future that you perceive for the world.
You mentioned to be at the forefront of all these startups in the tech area. What is your take right now in regards to the future of technology? Where do you see it going? Where is an interesting space where one could educate themselves as well to start a career?
So I think technology is a great enabler, right? So technology has enabled us to not only build new markets, but also really expand the realm of what is possible. You right now have a computer, like a full computer in your pocket. You have the knowledge of the world on your fingertips. So a lot of these things have been enabled by technology. And the next big, obviously, thing in technology is automation that we already see a lot of happening, but we'll see a lot more of it in the coming years. Some people call it future of work, other people call it automation or AI. And I think that in itself is going to create some very interesting opportunities, because previously how we thought about things is, oh, this is what, like, I'm a creative person, but in order to work in tech, I have to learn how to code. And so my creative passions become a hobby and my profession is coding. But I think with automation and all these new emerging technologies, what's interesting is that you can start morphing a lot of these things together. And there are now tools that enable you to be creative and make a ton of money, or there are tools that allow you to morph these creative muscles that you have with your practical or like professional life and really build not only companies but also have a great impact on society as a whole.
What do you think would be the most important skills someone would need in this future of tech world you just described?
Oh, I think the most important skill that humans have is their ability to think or have complex thoughts, and their ability to solve, like really match patterns or see things beyond, and kind of building on that. So I don't think jobs are going to go away. We're going to create a lot new jobs in the market, and our ability to learn new things, learn new skills is going to come very handy. So I think if there is one thing that we need to learn how to do, is it's to learn itself and be more flexible with what we think we can do with our careers.
And what would you recommend now someone who wants to get into the tech industry, maybe as a career changer or just finishing with university? What would be your specific recommendation how to land the first job in the tech industry?
Be valuable to somebody, especially if you're going to work for startups. Startups need so many different things. Be valuable to them. Show them how you can be valuable to them. Show them what you can do. And don't be scared of reaching out to people and asking for help or asking for whatever it is that you need to enhance your career. I think that's the most important thing. And then in terms of changing careers or anything, a lot of careers are now morphing. So a lot of people who were previously working in research are now working in tech. A lot of doctors who do not want to practice anymore are now working in tech, doing telemedicine, or building tech companies that do various medical technologies. So there is a lot of overlap between industries that is being enabled by tech. So figuring out what you want to achieve in the next 3 to 4 years and kind of working on it backwards to see who is the best match for it, both for you and for them, and just pitching yourself. It's like a sales process.
And I think you just proven as well that being valuable or showing that you're valuable is very important to land your job, because as you described before, you were showcasing what you would do in the next couple of days with a startup. So I think that's a very good approach to show what's your added value if you would start with a given company, right?
Definitely.
Thanks a lot for all this insight. I'm really interested to see it from your side, also from a VC side, and having all this input from the startup world, which is something I think a lot of people are keen on exploring as well. And I feel, as you just said, this is this cross or this mix of industries is amazing, that will create a lot of job opportunities. And I feel like technology is not an industry, it is in every industry. So no matter where someone is working, there is an opportunity to get the foot in the door in regards to technology.
100% agreed.
So before we close this podcast, I have a couple of speed questions for you, and I would like you to answer with what comes right to your mind.
Awesome.
Who is your favorite female role model?
Myself. I love myself.
This is, it's really good. I just watched your TEDx talk as well about the best thing that happens to you is you, right? That was the title, I remember. So we will share that as well. So absolutely.
Thank
cool.
you. Yeah, I'm the best thing that ever happened to me.
Which I believe is true. And I hope a lot of other people will see that as well, because it's the way to live. What is your most important skill?
My most important skill is my ability to learn new things.
And what is the best advice you were ever given?
It's okay. Yeah, that was the advice. Like, it's okay. Nothing is the end of the world. It's okay. You fail, your heart gets broken, things don't work out, but it's okay. It's just a part of the journey.
That's true. Absolutely. And I think that's a very great ending to this podcast. Thanks a lot for being our guest and sharing all your knowledge, insights, and advice with us. And we hope to hear more from you.
Yeah, I hope this was helpful. And if anybody wants to reach out to me or has any questions, I'm always happy to answer them.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in today and listening to this inspiring talk on TechFace podcast. Want to be the first to know about the next episode or get first-hand access to our events? Join TechFace and sign up today on techface.ch. As a new member, you will get a free career coaching call and will always be the first to know about exciting events, news, and insights. We look forward to welcoming you as our valued member.